and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that knows that retail success is within your reach. I am your host, Patrick Keiser. I hope everyone has been enjoying our recent episodes of our book club series as we focused on key takeaways from Paco Underhill's book, Why We Buy. I am really enjoying making these and sharing the knowledge with you, so I hope you are liking them too. And I must be doing something right because I did learn that this series has caught the attention of the people at EnviroCell, Paco Underhill's company. Perhaps we could conclude this series with an interview featuring an expert from EnviroCell discussing their latest findings and updates since the book's publication. So if you're listening, let me know. I'd love to have you on. But I definitely want to continue our summer book club series through Why We Buy and after into another book. My goal for this series is to select books that contain lessons for retailers and small businesses, read them, and share the 10 most important concepts that can help your business grow. As we enter into the latter half of this book club breakdown, I highly recommend that you go out and buy Why We Buy. While I've covered and will be covering 10 major ideas in this series, there are countless other valuable insights, and I'm confident you're going to learn a lot from this book. Why We Buy focuses holistically on the science of shopping and what retailers can do to better appeal to their customers, keep them in the store, and encourage them to shop longer. So far, we've explored the attractiveness of the store's exterior, the transition zone, customers' tendency to favor the right side, the importance of providing space and time for decision-making, and the role of your 5 senses within shopping. If you haven't listened to any of these previous episodes, I recommend that you do go back and check them out. Not only because it's going to help boost my numbers of getting more downloads and more listens, but our episodes do build upon each other, and you'll learn from the previously shared knowledge. Today's episode, our 6th main point, will discuss merchandising and how retailers need to consider their customers' age and physical abilities with regard to product placement. So turn those listening devices to a comfortable volume, put your favorite snack within your reach, and get ready for book club. In episode 4 of the Why We Buy series, I briefly discussed the importance of retailers understanding their consumers' demographics and how that knowledge helps them place certain items in areas of the store where customers feel more comfortable spending time looking at them. This episode will focus even more on customer demographics and examine how products should be displayed to best serve different age groups and physical abilities, making the store more accessible for all of your customers. It's not surprising that Paco Underhill emphasizes consumer demographics. His company studies these factors and analyzes customer shopping data in many ways. There is one broad generalization inferred from his thoughts on product placement. The idea that as we get older, we become less flexible. Is this true in every case? Maybe not, but I definitely noticed that my back and knees ache more than they did 10 years ago, and I'm less likely to crouch or stoop to look at something than I used to do. So it's a generalization, but there's more truth to it than fiction. Throughout his discussion of this concept, Underhill uses many examples to demonstrate his findings. He mentions how nicer dog treats are desired by older women and younger children, both of whom enjoy spoiling their pets. However, these treats are usually placed on the top shelf, requiring older women to knock them down with a roll of aluminum foil and children to climb the shelves to reach them. He discusses how adolescents typically bought pop music. Remember, this book was written in the 1990s when music stores still existed? But the bestseller charts were positioned at an eye level for adults, making it difficult for their target customer, those adolescents, to read the very top of the chart. He also notes that larger individuals were often asked to look on the bottom shelf right off the ground in order to find underwear their size. This relates to another one of Underhill's points on the topic, that the older someone gets, the less likely they are to shop below their knees. Many factors contribute to this. The butt brush effect that we talked about before naturally occurs when you have to bend over to see products. Additionally, age-related factors come into play. Our eyesight worsens as we age, making it harder for us to see products in words on packaging the further away they are, which makes it less likely for us to look at them. Also, as we age, our bendability decreases. Our knees and backs just don't move as easily, leading many to opt for more accessible items rather than reaching for something on the ground or straining to get down there and then stand back up. So, who shops on those lower shelves on the lower half of the displays, which is still valuable selling space? It's those darn youths and their young knees, whom for them arthritis is just a spelling word. I will talk much more about those youths in a few minutes. Paco makes the point that many clothing stores often arrange products by size, which forces larger people to look lower down to find their size. He recommends that the larger sizes be placed at eye level to make them more accessible. Underhill spends a lot of time discussing ways for stores to be more accessible to an aging customer base as well. He wrote this in the 1990s and revised it in the early 2000s, but even then, he made the predictions about 2025 that are still true today. He mentions that baby boomers will have the largest buying power of any demographic, even as they age, and the importance of rethinking how retailers appeal to this powerful demographic. And we see this still to be true. While Gen X millennials and Gen Z do have money and have a position within the market, it's baby boomers who really hold a lot of the capital in our economy. Visibility is another factor of demographics to take into consideration. I mentioned this a few moments ago and have touched on it in other episodes, but as we age, our eyes get worse. There is a yellowing effect of the optic lens that affects how we see the world, how we read things, and how we shop. If there are certain products or areas of the store that are more popular amongst an older customer base, and older here being really over 40, maybe having a larger font on the signs there, or a higher contrast between the background and the lettering would be beneficial to those who are shopping. Retailers with an older customer base might also need to think about the ways that customers with arthritis interact with their stores. Are there items with small buttons or hooks that could be difficult to handle? Could you maybe use Velcro or something else to hang them instead? This might also be a takeaway for product vendors and manufacturers to think about how they could make products more accessible to an aging customer base. And finally, before we look at other demographics that Underhill focuses on, no discussion in this book is really complete without a discussion about baskets. Paco loves baskets and the ability of a simple item placed in the correct spot being able to have a multiplying effect on an existing sale. But when do people most commonly need baskets? It's when their hands are already full. So, consideration should be given to how baskets are placed or displayed in order to make sure that they are most accessible. With that in mind, baskets should be elevated off the ground. People don't want to bend over, especially with full hands, but you don't want it to where the stack is so high that the customer is forced to heave the items into the basket at the very top. So a stack whose top basket generally stays between a person's hip and slightly below their armpit, easily a reachable height to deposit the things that you're carrying without having to bend over, has the added benefit of being more visible than baskets on the ground. Underhill also spends a significant amount of time talking about how to make stores more accessible to another major demographic: children. Children are an economic force. When they can reach out of a cart and grab things, they begin participating in the shopping process. And who can say no to a little cherub asking for a treat from a store? Just a quick little anecdote. A little bit ago, I was at a children's store and we were getting my daughter some new books and clothes. When we walked out of the store, we noticed that Little Miss Main Street had a new small whale stuffed animal in her stroller that she had grabbed while we were strolling by. I tried to pull it out of her hands and she resisted. I asked for it back and she squeezed it into the tightest hug on her chest. So we, of course, went back in and paid for the whale. This was not planned or a desired purchase by the adults, but we made it anyway. Children have wants. They have desires. You want them to want your products just as much, maybe even more, than you want the parent to want to buy them. So retail stores should be thinking of children when considering who their demographic is, because even though they are not actually purchasing anything, they can have a massive influence on the sale. One thing that Paco wants retailers to consider is that children, believe it or not, are human. They too gather information about an item by being able to interact with it and using their senses. Everything that I spoke about in the last episode also applies to the non-buyer but the shopping influencer children. So if you want the kid to want a kid's item, you have to make it accessible for them to see, touch, and interact with. Before I mentioned that the space below an adult's knee is something on the ground, or really on the bottom half of display is for the youths. This area is for children if the product display and story allow it to be. This area is going to be the most accessible to the little ones and what they can most easily reach. Children-focused displays take into account how children look at items and explore the store differently than their parents do. For children's books, Underhill suggests putting books with popular TV characters like Bluey, Peppa Pig, or Cocomelon on the bottom for kids to look at, and books with greater lessons like teaching about numbers on the top for parents. Another element related to how children shop that retailers could tap into is their tendency to become obsessive about certain topics, such as dinosaurs and trucks for little boys or unicorns and princesses for little girls. Retailers can bundle items or make box sets of items to sell multiple things all at once. It might be a book, a toy, a t-shirt, and a puzzle all around a popular theme for children. Mom and dad are likely going to be thankful for the opportunity to buy, let's say, 4 items for the price of 3.5 just to occupy the child. For the placement of children's products within the store, Underhill looks at who children are generally accompanied by. While this trend is evolving, females are more likely than not to be the primary caregivers and more likely to accompany a child in a retail store. So it would behoove a retailer to place the children's section within sight of the women's section. As I mentioned in a previous episode about an example that Underhill used where the children's section was paired with the men's section, and it ended up being the least visited section of the store because men weren't visiting it and women weren't crossing the aisle to go to the men's side in order to visit the children's section. And the children didn't see it because, well, they're shopping with mom. So it ended up that nobody went there. For all consumers, Paco is a big advocate of using screens and technology to attract the buyer's eye. This does not exclude children. Children love screens. If you've ever seen a child become mesmerized by their favorite TV show, then you know the power of a screen to capture their attention. However, technology can be expensive and children can be destructive. Not a great combination. Underhill's recommendation for using technology in the store for children is that the screens are either placed in an area that is inaccessible for the children, or that the technology in screens are built to combat standards and ready to be able to take a beating from tiny little hands. If your store doesn't carry products for children, but you still see them in the store with their caregivers, it's important to consider that the area lower to the ground is kid area. And if you have children that visit the store, it might be worthwhile to carry some children's products anyway. Do you have things that could break at that height? Are there heavy items that might topple over? The worst thing that you can do is upset the parent, whether you sell children's products or not. You want to child-proof the store without it becoming unwelcoming to children. It is worth the time to think about how a child would view your store. Are the electrical outlets covered? Are there uncovered cables and cords on the ground that could be tripped over? Are the walking spaces wide enough to be stroller friendly? If there's an open area for children to play, are there clear lines of sight for the parent to monitor their child? These things should be taken into consideration to ensure that the children are kept safe while in your store. Paco Underhill does not address one demographic in this book: teenagers. Teenagers today have a larger buying power than any previous generation of teens. No longer are teens completely reliant on allowance or money from a part-time job that they may have. It is much more common today to see a teenager pull out their parents' credit card to buy things than you would have seen 20 years ago. With this change, teens can become influential buyers within the retail environment. Thought should now be given to product placement for teens. Today's teens are much more online and much more on social media. If teens are a demographic for your store, then having a presence online where these customers can browse your products, see your marketing and advertising, and experience your store and potentially buy everything all in one place. So as you think about your store over the next few weeks, I want to first ask whether or not you have a good idea of the demographic that visits your store. This might be different than your target demographic, and it might be different than the demographic who shops in your store. But knowing who walks through the door is important in order to place products that are accessible to them. And then, based on your answer, look at how products are placed. Are they accessible to the group that you'd want to interact with that product, or should things be moved around? I challenge you to take note of this, and if necessary, change where products are placed so your target audience can find them more easily. This bar isn't too high to reach and can really make an impact on your sales. That's it for this week. Hope you stay safe, shop local, and keep your heart on Main Street. This episode is written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Keiser, with a very special thanks to Paco Underhill and his book, Why We Buy. For more information about Heart on Main Street, you can reach us at contact@heartonmainstreet.org or visit our website, www.heartonmainstreet.org. Thanks. Bye.